This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next. All right, friends, welcome back. This is the Festival Pass Stories podcast. We are, as always, presented by Dos Hombres, the award-winning artisanal mezcal meant to be shared or not. Just enjoy it by yourself. No, share it with friends because it was created by friends, Aaron Paul and Brian Cranston, and of course, Gregorio Velasco. And we want you to have a drink with us. So go to doshombres.com/delivery to do so. And you ever wanted to have that opportunity to invest in a product early that could be the next Airbnb? It's intriguing. It's very intriguing. So learn why entrepreneurs and celebrities with exits approaching $10 billion have already invested in Festival Pass. Go to invest.festivalpass.com to learn more. We got NFTs going, the whole thing. It's pretty cool. We just launched an NFT with a utility that you can get a lifetime subscription to Festival Pass. Use that for hotels, festivals, all sorts of stuff. So check that out, folks. It's a rare moment when you get an opportunity like that. And it's also a rare moment when we get to interview a violinist. This will be a new opportunity for us here at Festival Pass, let alone the world's preeminent violinist when it comes to his particular genre of the violin, and you will hear all about that and learn this remarkable journey. So please say hello to Dixon. Dixon, what's happening?
Yay. Good morning, Pat. Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here with you.
You know, Dixon, when you are the best at something, you can be known by one name: Prince, Michael, Madonna, Bruce. And when it comes to violin and your particular brand of it, Dixon. I see what's on the shirt. What's on for those watching? There'll be those listening and watching, but describe it as if we're on radio for those, because I see a violin on there.
Well,
on that shirt.
First of all, thanks for noticing. I designed it myself.
Oh, okay.
so
it's a Dixon original.
I have to brag a little. Yeah. So I've been blessed to be doing music full time for a while now, and people have been telling me, you need to have shirts. You need to sell shirts. And I really, I hesitated because I didn't want to just sell stuff. I didn't want to be too commercial. I didn't want to just have a logo. I wanted a positive message. Okay. And so it came to me because the name of my tour is Human Kindness. It's the words humankind and kindness put together. And I was like, oh, yes, that's what I can put on a shirt. So the first thing you see is human kindness, right? And then underneath is some sacred geometry. It's the Fibonacci spiral overlaid with my violin. So I play a very unusual, it's a 5-string electric violin.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. That's why you are the preeminent in the 5-string violin. There's no doubt about it.
And it's fun too for me because if you get the area of expertise small enough, then you can be the best in it. Like the more narrow you get, I am the world's best at this very small thing that not a lot of people do. Yeah. So
I have drilled it down to a point where there will be no competition because no one else is doing this. I've researched.
Yep. I love it. So yeah, so human kindness, and then the violin, the sacred geometry, and then Dixon's violin is on the shirt. Thanks for noticing. And I'm good. What I like too is that something like this sparks conversations. So sure. I've heard from fans. There you go, right? Fans will tell me, they're like, yeah, I was in the grocery store and somebody came up and wanted to know about this shirt. And next thing you know, they have this really sweet interchange between humans that wouldn't have happened otherwise. I love that.
Yeah, because, the grocery store is just like everyday, mundane kind of stuff. And people are looking for inspiration at the grocery store. When they see something different, they're like, I'm just shopping for the kids. Tell me what this is all about. Give me something. I cannot go down one more aisle. Please help me to carry on. It is those tasks of everyday life. And when we see something unique there, but I enjoy the grocery store. But I would, if I did see a shirt like that, It could strike up a conversation. No doubt
All right.
about it. Also, I am an extra medium, and I'll send you my shipping address. Thank you very much. If
Deal.
that is a size that you can carry there.
I got you.
Since you designed it, right? It's like there's a bespoke size just for me.
There you go.
So take us back, because I know you've been playing the violin for a long time, but you didn't make it a career for a long time. But was there a love for the violin at first, or was it like you're going to start playing this, sonny boy, and then you really didn't have much of a choice, and it's something that you grew into loving?
Yeah.
Or did you pick it up and you were like, this is great?
But it's a good question. I started playing when I was 10, and I was very lucky that the elementary school had a string program. And by the way, they don't anymore. Like, so that's been cut from so many schools now. Music programs are low in the priority list, which I understand, and it's a little sad for me too. So I was very lucky at the time that they basically, someone came into the fourth grade classroom and said, anybody that's interested in playing an instrument, like, raise your hand. And a buddy of mine and I, kind of without thinking, I was like, yeah, that kind of sounds interesting. Like, yeah, let's give it a shot. And I remember then the conversation that my parents had with me. So the parents were like, okay, if we're gonna have to buy a violin, and if we're gonna do that, you need to promise to practice an hour a day. That's the deal. You need to. That's the deal. Practice an hour a day, and yes, we'll buy this student violin. And I said yes. And so I won't say they forced me. That's too strong of a word. But they strongly encouraged me. Like, they would remind me, hey, you haven't done your practice today, right? So for a few years, I was strongly encouraged to keep my part of the bargain. And then in high school, I rebelled. In high school, I was like, that's it. I'm going to practice when I want, if I want, how I want. And you know what? I kept practicing. I still kept practicing, but I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. Like, I liked that I was getting some recognition. I was perceived as good, which really all that meant is I just practiced. Like, nobody else practiced like I did. Like, I don't believe in the idea of a prodigy. I don't believe that you're born with it. I believe have you heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
That sounds like learning to fly a plane, but here in music, I would imagine that's once you've hit 10,000 hours of practice, you're an expert. How did I do? It was a total guess.
That's perfect. You nailed it. Somebody did this research, and the theory is that if you put 10,000 hours into anything, you'll master it, right? And so they looked at instrumentalists. They looked at like master plumbers, or whatever the craft was, that if you just put in that time, you'll get to be an expert. And the good news is, by the way, side story, is that before 10,000, you get really good.
You don't stink leading up to it.
You don't stink, right?
Yeah.
So I just practiced diligently, and so I got through the awkward, scratchy part. Every beginning violin sounds awful for 2 years. Like, everybody. And so I got over that hump, and so it started to sound decent. And so I started to get recognition, which was really good for my self-confidence. Like, yeah, cool. I've got this craft that I know well, but I didn't love it. I liked it, and I didn't love it until, like 2 decades later.
Yeah.
After this whole, because I went into technology. Like, I never intended to be a musician. I never was like, someday I'm going to be a musician. No, my thing is I'm a geek. Hi.
Yeah.
And so, I was,
a 12-step program for geeks. It's the first thing is acknowledging that you've got the geek problem. It's not a problem though, but the geek gene, the geek thing.
I readily admit I have that problem. And so I practiced programming, and I was working on computers, and I ended up going to college for computer science. I then went on to grad school. I got a graduate degree, a master's degree in computer science. I got a patent in virtual reality. I ended up going into corporate technology, and I had 15 years as a director of technology for a couple of startup companies that did well. That was my thing. until I went to a festival.
Ah, there we go. Because
Aha.
and I saw this because I saw that you've done. I mean, some people, if they ever do a TED talk, you never hear the end of it. It's like, well, did you see that in my TED talk? It's like, all right, Steve,
Right.
we've seen your TED. We saw your TED talk on being a middle-aged white guy. Everybody's really excited, but you have done 4 TED talks. I have, so then you can really brag. But I watched one of them, and in one of them, you're talking about this long career that you had in technology, and yeah, I had to rewind to hear it was something that you said that you used to do, and I still can't remember what it was. But I was like, what did he just say he did?
Yeah.
Trans geometrical something. So I don't know what it was, but it was. You were talking about that, but was there a moment? I mean, you were just hinting at it like it happened at a festival.
Yep.
But get us there. Take us to that seminal moment where you walk away from the desk and you're like, look, guys, see you Monday. Or maybe you took a vacation and you said, I'm going to a festival. I'm going to come back, change person. And everyone's like, all right, Dixon,
Right.
have fun.
Part of why I delight in festivals so much is I've felt personally myself deeply the transformative potential of festivals. My life was changed at a festival.
Okay.
And I love being part of them now because I know that it's possible. Like, I mean, yeah, you can have fun. That's awesome. Like, and frankly, that's why I went the first time. I went to a festival not to like have this amazing spiritual experience. I went because I thought it was a party. Yeah. My first festival, I hadn't gone to any festival till I was 35. I was 35 years old. I was successful in the technology world, but I was kind of bored. I was kind of in a rut. I kind of felt like I was like going through the same routine. There was this little voice in my head saying, there's something more out there, something more out there. Yeah. And so
midlife crisis at 35 or a mid-career crisis, maybe.
Possibly. Sure. So I went at 35 years old. I went to my first festival and it changed my life. And it wasn't that I came back from it and just quit immediately and changed my focus. What it did is it opened my mind. Well, actually, it wasn't my mind. It opened my heart. That's what it did. Right. It opened my heart because I was suddenly around people that were like expressing themselves and feeling deeply and being emotional and like dancing with abandon and dressing crazy. And they were doing all these things from their heart space. And I realized all I knew was my headspace. That's all I ever knew was my headspace. I was really good at my headspace. Like I could, analyze the heck out of stuff and I could like be really diligent about things, but I was totally closed off from my feelings, completely closed off from my feelings. And I think it was out of fear, frankly.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, well, if I open my heart any, then I'll get hurt. Right. So if I just close up my heart, if I just keep armored and protected, then I'll be able to go through life safe.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for 35 years until I saw other people that were just putting it out there. They were living. I was like, you can do that?
I want to do that.
What? Yeah. And so I started to like honor my feelings, like open my heart a little bit, like started to express, started to dance a little weird, started to dress a little weird, start to play music a little weird. And that was the thing. That was the next step. So because what I had been playing was I played classical music. So that was like, I guess, 25 years of playing classical music. But then I started to improvise. I started to write, which was terrifying, by the way. if coming from a classical world, in the classical world, the idea is
there's rules.
There's rules, and you're judged, and you're supposed to be perfect. Perfection is the goal. Make no mistakes whatsoever. And you're literally ranked like this. Your seat number is how perfect you are. Like first chair is the best, most perfect person. Second chair is the second best, most perfect person. And I now realize that's crap. Humans don't work like that. That's a horrible energetic environment to be in. And I like to release that. And now I'm like, it's actually okay to make mistakes. It's okay. And improv requires mistakes.
Yeah.
Improvisation
Oh yeah.
requires like some weird, ugly, like what the heck just came out of this instrument? That was awful. Let's do it again. Let's see where it goes. And so I started practicing improv, and I started to be okay with the mistakes and be gentle on myself, and just, fall on my face, get back up, and fall on my face and get back up. And that was amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was
And that's what we're talking about, folks. He is the preeminent expert in improvisational violin, because no one else even thought of doing it. I mean, there's a disruption in so much in the world, which is how so many of these tech companies start to become people become billionaires, Uber, so on, from the disruption. You just wanted to disrupt it to see what would come out of it, and to see
yes,
how much more this hobby would be, how much more you could love it. And then that's when I saw that you were able to actually marry the love of technology and the day job that was paying you, but take that out of the office and then combine that with the violin. When this improv that you're talking about, I saw another as I said, he was in 4 TED Talks, folks. Another one where he's like, I've never heard this song before, and either of you. In fact, the opposite. You've never heard this song before, and either have I. So you went out and you took that tech and you took that improv and you created I believe you call it a looping system, for lack of a better term.
yep,
But how did that come about? And get us marry the
yeah,
two together for us. Bring the
yeah.
tech into the music.
It was very fun. So when I started improvising, I sat in with a lot of bands. Anybody that would have me, like jazz bands, rock bands, blues bands, klezmer, gypsy jazz, DJs. Like I was just like, "Hey, do you mind if I
I think you
play with
covered it.
you?"
Yeah.
and and, uh, and these amazing musicians and humans were very gracious. And I sat in with a lot, and I learned so much. I was like a sponge. And after a while, I started to find my own sound and my own voice. And I wanted to go in this, like, whatever direction this is that I'm going.
Mm.
And I found for my the things I was feeling and channeling, I wanted a full sound. I wanted to sound like 12 of me, but
Okay. Yeah.
it's just me.
Your own
So
orchestra.
how do you do that? And I learned from guitar players. So guitar players have been doing live looping for a long time, for decades. And so, I remember the moment I was looking at a friend play guitar, and I realized he was using his feet. I'm like, what are you doing with your feet? And I looked down, and he's got these foot pedals on the
Yeah.
floor, these buttons that he's pressing with his feet while he's playing guitar. And I was like, what are those? And different pedals the guitar player can use them for different sound effects to make the guitar sound a little different in this situation or that situation, but also looping. So the guitar player can press a button, play something, press a button, and now that recording loops over and over and over, and then he can play on top of that. And so he's got his own background to play with.
All right.
And I was like, I wonder if you can do that with a violin. Yes, you can. So I switched from an acoustic violin to an electric violin at first, solely to solve a feedback issue, because microphoning, putting a mic on an acoustic violin when you're in a rock band is tough without getting feedback. Whereas you plug in an electric violin and it's easy. You just plug it into an amp and you're good to go. So I had an electric violin, and at first, for many, many years, I just plugged it into guitar gear. So I used guitar gear. Oh my gosh, there's a whole world of geekery and toys and gizmos and foot pedals and loopers and effects and stomp boxes, and that's a whole other talk. Then
TED Talk number 5.
TED Talk number 5.
Yeah.
And then what happened years later is I was like, these tools are good, but they're not quite doing what I want them to do. I've got some ideas in my head, and it just can't. And I'm like, well, you know what? It's been decades since I used to be in tech. Um, back when I was programming back in college,
Mhm.
um, maybe I could build my own system, and I did. So I literally created my own looping system. I wrote thousands of lines of code myself. So it's a laptop-based system with some MIDI foot controllers, and it
10,000 lines of code? Because if you did, then but you're already an expert now.
well, I don't know. Does each line of code take an hour to do? I don't know. But yeah, it took about a year to get the first version, and then I tweak it constantly, and it now just lets me go in musical directions that like it. I don't think, well, nobody else in the world has the system because I made it, and it really lets me pour my heart out. And go into sonic landscapes that I just can't do in any other way. And I delight in it. The freedom I have to really go in odd directions is just, it's such a joy.
It's amazing. But how do you, in the improv, one, how do you know when to, maybe go to the next pedal, or is it all feel, or do you now have a system? Because if it's improv, there shouldn't be a system. It should just be
Right.
yes and.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work ahead of time that I placed into like the placement of the pedals, so that if in the spur of the moment I want this kind of tone, then I should be able to really quickly get that kind of tone. And if in the spur of the moment I want to add an, so with looping, you start with a layer of loop, and then you can add layers, layer. And sometimes it gets too much. Like if you just keep adding, it ends up just being this mess. It's like mud. It's too much. If you're painting and you just keep adding paint on top of paint, it just ends up gray. That's no fun. So sometimes you want to back off. And so I was very careful. I spent like hundreds of hours, or maybe thousands of hours,
maybe 10,000, maybe
maybe
10,000,
10,000, with the arrangement of things, of the tools. It's kind of like your kitchen. Maybe that's an analogy. Like, have the ingredients exactly ahead of time where you want them, and have the skillet where you want it, and have the saucepan where you want it, so that in the spur of the moment, if you're like, we're going to make a souffle, bing, 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 or now I'm gonna make some hot dogs or whatever. Like, a lot of work ahead of time organizing your kitchen. My kitchen it's organized, so that then I can in the moment do my thing.
Amazing.
Thank you.
That's just, yeah. It's I had a moment of pause there, because I was like, I was just hanging on the next word about it. You're like, cool. And then it goes. But that is a good analogy with the kitchen.
Now it's neat. So every concert I start with an improv, and part of that is on purpose to get me out of my comfort zone and to get me into my feelings. Right. So I can, if I think too much while I'm playing, that's not great. The musical just will be stale.
Yeah.
So and it's tough because I just got on stage. I'm shaking off the stress of the day. Probably had to drive through traffic. There was all the setting up of the cables on the stage, and all the whatever stress brain stuff. Get out of this head. How do I get out of this head? So a really good way to do that is to start with an improv where I'm forced in front of people to really, okay, let's let that go. Let's feel, what am I feeling right now? It's delightful. It's great. It's hard. It's great. Then I can go where I want to go. And what's fun is during a average show, some of what you'll hear just from scratch, who knows what it was. It's just improv. And sometimes there's themes that come back, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like that groove. I remember. And these themes can evolve concert. I'm kind of like a jam band, actually, right? So jam bands will have certain grooves or jams that, yeah, it's familiar, and it's a little different every time too. So sometimes there are things that I'm like, yes, that's kind of like a song, but it's going to be a little different from last time. And then other times it's like, we're just making this up. So I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed to have this freedom on stage. I don't get bored. If I'm bored, the audience is going to be bored. So I want to have this freedom that in the moment I can really be like, okay, you know what? I want to go this direction. And that's tough to do with a band. When you have a 5-piece band, That's tough. And some bands do it. Like, I have mad respect for the bands that they can do things that I can't, frankly. But it's nice for me to have that freedom to just turn on a dime if something needs to change.
But some of the best bands that are just, I mean, finishing each other's sentences, are finishing each other's kind of improv, as you said, jam. And that's the best way maybe to think about it. You got a band like the Grateful Dead or the Allman Brothers, where I've seen both of them live. Even many years ago with Jerry once. But you go to an Allman Brothers show and they're just, it's like two guitarists will just start, they're like, kind of looking at each other almost, and it's
yes.
and they go and go. And I remember seeing this documentary, not even documentary, it was a concert for George Harrison, and it was all friends of George Harrison's. And Eric Clapton starts he starts jamming with Ravi Shankar. So Ravi Shankar's on the sitar.
Nice.
So you've got sort of Eastern music, and then you've got Clapton on his, and he pulls out the acoustic and he's just watching. And the two of them are like sort of like getting in the beat together and connecting. And all of a sudden it's Clapton is playing the guitar like a sitar. Like the two of them are going dun, 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 like beat for beat. And it was one of these most amazing jams I've ever seen. You're getting into that in your own space.
Yeah.
With your 12, it's like it, as I said before, it's like your own orchestra yourself.
I try to appreciate all things, right? So I appreciate bands.
Very open way to, that's human kindness right there.
That's right there. I'm trying my best. Even the things that trigger me, there's the challenge. But like, I see bands that can do magical things like that, and that's awesome. And as an audience member, I'm just like mind blown, awesome, amazing, cool. Not what I do. I used to get triggered by DJs, for example. I would see DJs that in my prior judgment, they would all they do is they just show up with a laptop and they press play and they're getting all this attention, and I'm working my butt off. Like, when I show up, I am working. And so I used to have this really, really bad attitude, frankly, to a lot of DJs. And it was finally later I made peace with it, because of what I realized is that it's not about the amount of work you do ahead of time. It's about what is the experience for the audience. Like, I'm always trying to put myself in the shoes of the audience. And the audience for DJs is having an amazing experience. They are dancing their butt off. It doesn't matter that the DJ is just clicking a button. Who cares? Great. If he's clicking the right button, and if the jam is at the right energy for the audience, awesome. The audience is having an ecstatic experience. Great. Yeah. That DJ deserves a raise. Fabulous. That's awesome. And it's different than what I do. So one of the things that I hope comes across with my performance is I hope people are seeing something they thought was impossible. I want them to see one person on stage, just one, but I want them to hear 12. I want you to hear something that you're like, how does that come from that?
Sure.
Right? As soon as you get two people on a stage, you lose that a little bit, because automatically your brain's going, oh, yeah, there's sounds coming from here, there's sounds coming from there. That's fine. And certainly with a band, like whatever, the sounds are coming from everywhere. But when your brain sees one person and hears 12, the neurons are going to start firing in a whole different way. And that's fun for me. I want people to think it's impossible and witness it, so that then they can reevaluate what they think in their life is impossible. Part of my mission is empowerment. Okay. I've been working on my own empowerment for decades. So I got my mind or my heart cracked open, probably both. I got my mind and heart cracked open at a festival. And I then took the steps to change my life. I don't claim that the festival changed my life. The festival offered me an opportunity. It offered me a new worldview. It opened my mind. It opened my heart, so that then I could take the steps to change my life. So I took the steps to quit the corporate world. And that was 12 years ago. but it's not like the festival caused, quit my job.
You didn't show up on Monday and you were like, I'm out of here.
Nope. And so I'm hoping that with what I do and with my story, people will look at their own lives and go, hey, I'm in control of my life. I can take the steps to do what I want. I am empowered. I want everybody to know that.
So that's the you've led this life now, and we should all aspire to this of living to not only do what we love, but to inspire others. And I think by doing what you love and putting that art out there for millions to see, you are providing that inspiration to others by doing just what you love. So well done to you.
Thank you.
Question about the music. Thank you. A question about the music. Were you writing anything? I mean, I know with the improv and the violin, you broke the rules, but before you developed the looping system, were you writing any of your own original music for the violin?
Not at all. Anytime I try to write something down, it just doesn't feel right. I'm like, what's this? All right. No, my delight is in the live performance. I've even struggled with getting recordings out, because then I'm in a studio and it's just stale. Like most of my recordings are live performances. So even part of the reason I designed my system the way I did is that I get really good recordings. So I record every concert I do, and I get pristine audio from that, because that's when the live is when the magic happens for me. And so I can just cherry pick. I'm like, oh man, there was that moment. That was 7 concerts ago, that third song in this magic, the clouds parted and the angels sang. And I got that recording. Great. I can use that. That's going to end up on the next CD. I don't write. I don't compose. I have mad respect. I will see, I witness singer-songwriters that come up with, I was just at a festival, and the people, it's precious. Like when you craft even a 3-minute, the verse, and it's simple, but it'll make you cry. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. And not what I do, but I appreciate it. It's great. I'm being fierce about sticking with this narrow niche of what I do.
Great.
Right. I get invited to collaborate constantly, and I don't. I've had people say, oh, you should put some drum and bass behind your. No, I'm not. And I hope it's a message to others to fiercely do what you do. Right. There's only one of you in the whole universe. So own it. Get your own weird, unique self out there. I want everybody to be truly 110% themselves and not be like others.
Love it. And you've performed, you're talking about concert 1, 3, 5, 7, or maybe you didn't mention one, but 1,000 concerts, which, you're 10% of the way there to that 10,000 rule once again. But you've performed all over the United States. Can you take us back to that real first live experience for you? What was that like, getting out there?
Terrifying.
That was the start of it.
Terrifying. Awesome. I started by doing strolling violin at that first festival. This was before electric violin, before looping. I still had I didn't have my normal acoustic violin. I bought a cheap, I call it camping violin, because it was, I didn't want it to get ruined in the harsh festival conditions. And I basically walked. This was a camping festival. I play a lot of festivals. And, you've got city festivals, and you've got festivals out in the woods or fields. And so this was a camping festival. So everybody's in their tents during the day. And I just walked to a group of people, and I'd be like, hey, do you want to hear some music? And they'd be like, sure. And so I'd make something up. And it was terrifying. It was scary for me to do that for a while, because I was worried that people would hate it, or that I'd make a mistake, or that what's going to go wrong. And what would happen is people loved it, even though it was scratchy and awkward and out of tune and with all the mistakes, even though, because I clearly was putting my heart into it. And I've man, what an amazing lesson for me to learn is that if you put your heart into it, the audience will support you. It's like, if you leap, the net will appear. Well, I leap a lot, and
it's a good lesson.
The net appears. So that was the beginning, was just strolling violin, making stuff up on a scratchy acoustic violin, and people loved it. And what was really life-changing for me was when I started to like see the look in people's eyes and realize we were having a profound, deep emotional connection. Like, and it would start to happen more and more, and especially as I got into like my own sound and the looping and such. But like, the reason I quit corporate is not because music felt good or such. For a while, I was doing both. There was this overlap period where I still had the corporate day job, but then on the weekends I was, gigging and improv and sitting in with the bands or whatever. The reason I realized finally that I had to do this full time is when people would come up to me after a show with tears in their eyes and just say, "You've opened my world, right? Or you've changed my life, or I will never be the same." Like, with these powerful experiences, and I'm like, I need to do this. I'm going to quit. So I didn't quit because corporate sucked. It actually was extra hard for me because I had a very good corporate job. Like, I was doing well. I was working on important projects and making a lot of money. I didn't quit because it sucked. I quit because I realized the powerful potential of sharing your heart with people through music, and I don't look back.
And you've dedicated your life to inspiring people through that.
Yep, very much. Yep.
So what was the thing that you were the expert in that I can't remember or pronounce?
Oh, I like to say that my specialty was multi-dimensional data visualization.
That's it.
So,
sure.
Yeah,
me too.
Yep, data visualization. You too. Small world.
What is data visualization?
So I used to basically manage a lot of data. Our small company worked for very large companies. So like big companies like British Petroleum, the Department of Defense, like Microsoft. Yeah. And so these companies would have massive amounts of data to manage. And we're like, we can help you make sense of that. So we can take this huge amount of information and consolidate it and visualize it in a way that you'll be able to actually understand what's going on. Because if you just have a reams of paper or just a massive spreadsheet or just a database sitting there somewhere, that's not enough.
Yeah.
Now the good news
I see that. Give me charts, give me pictures, give me graphics. Now I'm like, aha,
yes, pictures.
I see.
Great. It's awesome. And what's neat, and I didn't expect, is that business experience helps me now in music. For a little while, I could have had this attitude of, oh, I wasted all those years in corporate. If only I had leapt into music full time right off the bat, I wouldn't have wasted. No. That business experience helps me a ton. Not just with being organized. That helps. I mean, especially as I think I'm doing about 120 shows a year now. So there's a lot of information and logistics and administration and such to keep track of. But also just to know how to communicate, how to read a contract, how to interact with people in a professional way. The sad thing about being a musician, for doing it for a living, is that 95% of my energy is on the business side, and only 5% is on the music side.
Oh wow!
For me to do this for a living, I have to do mostly business. And it's not sexy. It's not fun. It's like promotion and sales and marketing and the necessary evils. And I get that. Like, I used to be in the business world. That's, if you want to stay in business, you gotta do the business stuff. So I feel because I have musician friends that are amazing musicians, just absolutely stunning. They'll make you cry, and they're struggling. And they just think if they just keep working on the music, that suddenly their phone is going to start ringing off the hook. And that's, in my experience, not the way it works. Like, I still do most of my hustling. Granted, I have help now. I have a small team. I've hired some friends to help me with this. But like, we're knocking on doors. We're not waiting for the phone to ring. My phone doesn't ring that much. I'd love it. It's great. But mostly it's us hustling, putting it out there, saying, hey, we want to do this thing. We want to do this thing. We want to do this thing.
Yeah. My business, my other side outside of doing these podcasts with our wonderful festival pass family is that I'm an auctioneer and I host live events. So I feel I feel what you are talking about with that. I'm on stage for a half hour doing the auction, raising the money, but the rest of the time it's the prep, it's the meetings, it's the strategy of the fundraising. How are we going to get to that $1 million? Well, here's how we're going to get there. It's putting together all the auction items, and then it's the contracts and invoices and follow up and payments and everything else. And it is a ton of work. And yeah, I'm out there hustling, and then there's the business development side of it, not just waiting for somebody to say, "I saw you at this event, so it was great. Can you do that for us?" It's figuring out the best ways that you can, maybe taking that data and visualizing it. Maybe that's what I need to do. But it's really, it's so much more than just being on that stage for that performance. So I'm with you. But look, I know we've taken up a lot of your very precious time here, and you have to get back to your business development. But I need to ask you, because this is Festival Pass, so let's get down. This life-changing experience happened for you at a festival, but you've been involved with some awesome festivals, some of the biggest out there, including Burning Man. You've been involved for 10 years. Were you there when you say you're involved or a part of Burning Man? I guess everybody's kind of a part of Burning Man, but was it as a performer, as a spectator, or is it the two worlds come together?
Yes. All the above. It's a yes.
The answer
all the
is
above. Yes. Yeah. One of the things I love about Burning Man and Burning Man related events is that there is no strict division between the artists and the audience. Everyone is encouraged to participate, to bring something. Most festivals don't operate that way. Most festivals, you buy a ticket as an audience member, you go and you're like, please entertain me. I want to receive the entertainment. And then there's often a row of security and a stage. And on the other side of that very harsh line is the performers. And there's clear distinction between the two. With burner events, no, it's like everybody is encouraged to be a participant and perform or do something nice for others. You don't have to be a musician. It could be that you create art. It could be, I had a moment where somebody walked up to me in the middle of the afternoon and they said, pick a number between 1 and 99. And I said, 47. And he said, I've memorized 99 poems and I will now read you poem number 47. And he read this poem to me and it was beautiful. It was absolutely, and that's how he participated was that. And other people will just, cook hot dogs for folks like, hey, you want a free hot dog? Yeah. Cool. There you go. Like,
but at first when someone says, now I'm going to read you poem number 47, you're like, where is the exit door? Oh my God.
Yeah.
But as you said, you, in your love, in your keeping your mind open, even if it's something that you don't love, you're going to sit back and you're going to listen.
There's the challenge is how, and this is part of the human kindness message too, is to realize we're all human, including the people you don't agree with. Right. And there's the challenge, especially in society right now where we're so polarized, we're so divided. It's like, let's remember that we're all human. We have more in common than we don't. Right. And so, it's like, what's underneath everything? Like somebody has a very strong view of something. What's underneath that? What are the root fears? What are the root desires? I try to bring people together. I'm blessed. The violin is a very ubiquitous instrument. Like oh my gosh, you can play so many different styles of music, and my audience is very. It's a melting pot. All ages, all genders, races, religious affiliations. Like everybody's welcome. Come on in. The water's fine. It's great.
Yeah. And what about Electric Forest? What was that one all about? And I would love to hear your experience there.
It's a delight. It's a bigger event. They're very, very secretive about the numbers, but the rumor I've heard is it's 40 to 50,000 people at that event. It's big. And the thing I love, especially that's coming to me, is that the amount of intention and budget, frankly, that they put into art. So there are art installations there. The forest area in the middle is gorgeous, stunning. It feels like another planet at night. There are lights and lasers and art, and it's like, where am I? Like, I'm in the woods, but I'm on planet Mars. Like, it's a great way to have your mind blown. And not a lot of events put that much effort into the artistic space and creating kind of a all-encompassing environment for you. Right. Some are just like, well, here's music, and okay, great. Like, I'm a fan of music, but how cool when you can be in a totally different environment.
So, what festival is next for Dixon, or what is really next for Dixon? I know you mentioned earlier the Human Kindness tour. So tell us about that and tell us what's next for you.
Yep. Next, I'm blessed. I'm right still in the heat of the summer tour season. So there's a few festivals coming up. DixonsViolin.com. Please stalk me for sure. And what I'm doing is I'm constantly planting seeds for the future. So I know what I'm doing for the next 2 months. Right? Still some festivals, still some venue shows and such. And what I'm doing is planting seeds for what's going to be in the fall, what's going to be in the winter. I'm about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through my next album, which will be titled Human Kindness.
Hey, there it is.
I already got the title. That was easy. So look for that here in a couple months. That'll be out. And other than that, I'm open to what the universe will have me do. It's like, how can I best be of service? Right. And right now it feels like steady as she goes, the more the merrier. I keep telling my team, I'm not tired yet. We're doing 120 a year. I could do 150. We got space. Let's do it.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So, and then besides DixonMusic.com, the social medias, where do we find you on all of those?
The good news is I'm very consistent with my brand. So it's Dixon's Violin. So DixonsViolin.com. Or
not
if you go into Facebook and Facebook/Dixon's Violin, Instagram is just at Dixon's Violin, TikTok, Spotify. I'm a geek, right? So frankly, if you can't find me on whatever system you're in, you tell me because I missed something. Like I should be anywhere. It's brand consistency. I learned that from the business world. So just be consistent. And
it's a good way to visualize all the data.
That's right. And again, I'm always putting myself in the shoes of the audience. If I were them, how would I find them? And I try to work that way rather than how can I push this out? No. Put myself in their shoes, and how would people stumble upon me? That's a constant thing. And one of my mantras: put yourself in the shoes of the other.
And put your heart into it, and the audience will follow. I believe you said earlier.
Yep. Yes, and
it's authentic. Because it's authentic.
Yep. And if we're recapping the takeaway points here, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Be patient with yourself. I like to say the violin, anybody can play the violin. Truly, anybody can play the violin. The trick is the first 2 years suck. That's the trick. For 2 years, it's awful. And then you get good. So whatever it is you're doing, whether you're trying to start a business or change your life or move or get a new relationship going or whatever, be patient. Keep at it, and you can do it.
Unbelievable. Look, music inspires us in a lot of ways, and it has been fascinating hearing how it not only inspired you, but also transformed your life. Check out Dixon Violin, DixonViolin.com, and at Dixon Violin on all those socials. Can't beat it. Folks, Dixon, thank you so much for joining us. And friends, we will see you next time on Festival Pass Stories.
Thank you so much, Pat.
This is Festival Pass Stories, a podcast series is told by the people who create and make festivals come to life. You will go behind the stage, kitchen, or studio door to hear the stories of passion and inspiration that started some of the world's most beloved festivals. Hear the startup stories and how an idea went from what if to what's next.